poll to determine whether there is quorum. Please respond present loudly when your name is called. Neil Kerwin, present. Karina Edmonds.
Present.
Charles Fogarty. Present. Richard Humphrey. Matthew Lenz. Susan Petropis.
Present.
Mayor Gindi.
Present.
Margot Cook. Mike McNally.
Present.
Mark Parlage.
Present.
Good, okay. I think the determination is no quorum. We hope we don't have a quorum. So we will not vote on the acceptance of the agenda or on the acceptance of last meeting's minutes. The minutes for this, for September's session of this committee will be reviewed and approved at the January meeting when we do have a quorum. We can move, however, to discussion items. And with that, I will turn the floor over to Laura Beauvais, our provost.
Thank you very much, Neil. Can everybody online hear me?
Can.
That's great. I'll use my teacher's voice, which I still have. Thank you very much for welcoming me here today. This is my 5th week on the job, and I always respected Don DeHaze, but I have even more respect for him now after doing the job he did for 13 years for 5 weeks. I'm learning a lot, and I think I will be learning until I step down. We have a report today for you, just to give you an update on what's going on in academic affairs. And Sean will be showing our slides for us today, so I can sit here with my colleagues who will be helping me deliver the report. Okay, so what we're going to do is give you an update on several things. First of all, we're going to give you an update on all our efforts on diversity and inclusion actions, because we've actually, in 2 months, we've done quite a bit. We're also going to give you a short report on our international efforts, and Gifty, Dr. Akko will be giving that report. And then we're going to have a COVID update. I think Neil would like to hear this every time we report this year, so we're going to do that, and Dr. Ann Beeger will be doing that report. Neil also asked for an update on JCAP and where that is. We've only met one time, but I can tell you what we're doing. And then just some issues on the horizon coming up for us. So, Sean, you can move the next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, so first of all, on our action agenda for change, we have decided to use the Academic Affairs Diversity Task Force, which has been in place for probably 13 years now, to guide our efforts this year. So one thing that we are doing is, and I give Dr. Beeger a lot of credit for this, she's been really good at organizing our efforts. She put together an approach for us attempting to do all the actions in this agenda. Well, we won't get all these actions done this year, but we have a very good organization for it. I don't need to show you that. It's a busy Excel spreadsheet, but what we're doing is asking different members of the Diversity Task Force to work on different parts of the strategy. The first strategy we're working on is called Strategy 7 in this report, and basically has 2 pieces to it. And one is valuing and recognizing the work of anti-racism and diversity, equity, and inclusion and promotion and tenure. Now, this one's going to be a little complicated because we have to work with our union on making any kind of changes in this regard, but we are making progress in suggesting language that would actually tell faculty when they do this kind of work in either their teaching, research, or service that it is valued and it will be recognized as they go through annual review, promotion, and tenure. The second part of Strategy 7 is actually trying to improve the search process in terms of hiring candidates that are doing research or teaching or service in this area. So we've developed a number of documents that we've sent to chairs and deans already that will give them guidance on doing this and helping them do greater outreach to the applicant pool. So it's improving the applicant pool and also focusing on the processes themselves by which we do searches. So strategy 7 is the one that we've been focusing on, and we'll move to other strategies as we go on throughout the year. Next slide, please. Another thing that we've done is we're instituting annual college diversity accountability reports. The deans will be required to provide these when they put their budget requests together. So we can actually look at this in terms of examining what they're asking for in their budgets. We also have, and this is something that we're very happy about, is we have plans for an anti-racism symposium coming up. This came from the faculty themselves. This did not come from the top. So they came to us, Ann and me, to help them think about how they would pull faculty together who are already doing this work and to educate each other. So that may happen like in January. And along with that, we have some faculty who are working on an HMI, Howard Hughes Medical Institute grant that is focusing on inclusive teaching. We are kicking off the search for the 4 new assistant deans that we told you about last time. That will be happening next week. And we're still in discussions for going forward. It may not happen in the year that I'm interim provost, but going forward with someone who's going to be focusing on driving this agenda forward in the future. Next slide, please. 2 other updates for you is that we have instituted the URI Narragansett Undergraduate Scholarship, and it's for students who are part of the Narragansett Indian tribe. It launched this fall. We already have 12 scholarships and more are coming. So that's been very helpful to our Native American students. And lastly, we have a campus-wide committee on trans inclusion that was just established this summer. And they're going to focus on the curriculum development, events, programs, and outreach and education on transgender issues. Next slide, please. And we are working in conjunction with Faculty Senate. They've been very active in this area too. And these are some of the things that they are doing. They're looking at service workloads of underrepresented faculty because we often ask them to do a lot. We call it the cultural tax. They have to be on committees so we can have representation. So we're looking at that in the fairness of doing that and how we can mitigate those workloads. More mentoring, supporting faculty development, and then of course the curricular piece too. So what I see is happening is we're trying to integrate the efforts because, as you know, on any kind of endeavors, you can have groups working at cross purposes to each other. So the more that we can pull Faculty Senate work in with the work that we're doing in the Provost's office, the better it's going to be so people don't feel like they're working against each other and doing things in one corner of the campus that the other corner of the campus doesn't know about. So that's a big, for me, that's going to be a big part of my role this year. Next slide, please, Sean. One thing I did want to point out is that we have the Center for Humanities this year is engaging in this year-long series of virtual and in-person lectures that explores ideas on the local and national level on race, ethnicity, and sovereignty. And it's called Memorials and Commemoration in the U.S. This has been an excellent series so far. I participated in the one that was a few weeks ago, was actually walking up, hearing a panel presentation from historians and archaeologists on campus, and then taking a tour of campus where we actually went through the walk-through time and saw the different places on campus that represented peoples that have often been forgotten in their place on the land and what their life on the land. I just wanted to point it out is that we have this available, and if you ever want to go back, this is online, you can go back and view some of these presentations. Next slide, please, Sean. Okay, now I want to hand it over to Dr. Akua Downbo to give a short update on international issues.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bove. Can everyone hear me? Okay, thank you. And please, I'd ask the board to indulge me. I'm just going to go ahead and read my report, because if I speak without it, I get enthusiastic and wander off in several directions. So anyway, we are so pleased to inform the board that URI has been named a top 20 producer of scholars in the Benjamin E. Gilman International Scholarship Program. And this has been done by the U.S. Department of State's Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs. And these top 20 honors coincide with the 20th anniversary of the Gilman program. The Benjamin E. Gilman International Scholarship Program enables students with limited financial means to study or intern abroad, thus, providing them with skills critical to U.S. national security and economic prosperity. And since the inception of the program, URI has enabled 109 students to secure Gilman scholarships to study abroad. This is a particular honor of which we are very proud, especially within our equity and inclusion framework, because it expands access for many more students who are traditionally unrepresented in study abroad. With regard to our strategic partnerships, these are a robust driver of student global learning and mobility, faculty research, and collaborative teaching. Among our partnerships, and we currently have about 140 of them, I would like to highlight our engagement with Indonesia. Indonesia has been a major strategic partner for about 40 years. And URI recently signed a new 5-year MOU with the Indonesian Ministry of Planning. The Ministry of Planning is the umbrella ministry that oversees all of the other ministries in Indonesia. And they have funded about 30 degree seeking students over the last 5 years at both the graduate and undergraduate levels, as well as 27 government officials in shorter term training programs in blue carbon, coastal resources management, and blue economy. So we are humbled that URI impacts positively the economic development of Indonesia, and especially in the area of capacity building with some of their least economically developed regions, such as Aceh, Papua, and Sulawesi. I'd like to note that the former Minister of Planning for Indonesia is a 2-time URI alumnus, and we actually have a recent Indonesian alumnus also who has joined the ministry. So we are well entrenched there. But this also benefits URI faculty who conduct research in Indonesia or teach students in split site programs. These are faculty who are building global networks of excellence that advances their own work, while URI students who participate in faculty-led programs are also building the global competencies that they will need to live and learn and thrive in this increasing interdependency that is the world as we know it now. Another kind of partnership that I would like to highlight and that I hope we could do more of is the one that we are currently developing with the Rhode Island National Guard. Sean, next slide, please. The Rhode Island National Guard approached us to assist with educational initiatives in Timor-Leste and in the Bahamas. And this is a program that is funded through the Department of State also. And it links National Guard states and territories with partner countries or international organizations for the purpose of fostering mutual interests and establishing long-term whole of government relationships and bilateral security cooperation. Timor-Leste is interested in a wide variety of fields. I'm not going to go through all of them, but they are really looking to partner with URI on these. And actually, Vice President Snyder is here because I think we also, during the pandemic, we worked to send ventilators to Timor-Leste among a number of other countries. With regard to funding initiatives for faculty engagement, we are pleased to once more award funding to faculty to travel internationally, to conferences to present their research and works of creative expression, to meet with bilateral partner institutions, to strengthen our relationships, to seek new avenues of research cooperation, to enrich their curriculums, and to visit future sites for student study and internships abroad. We expect to provide funding to about 30 faculty, some of whom will travel with their graduate advisees for joint research. Another funding initiative that was launched a couple of years ago was between URI, Technische Universität Darmstadt, and Technische Universität Braunschweig 2 years ago. But during the pandemic, we switched in-person collaborations to what we call the innovative virtual research encounters with faculty grantees from the 3 institutions. And I'd like to thank Executive Director Sigrid Berka for really helping us move this. And so it resumes this year, and there will be travel, and we thank the foundation also for providing resources for that. As an institution, we have recently joined the Collaborative Online International Learning Network, also called COIL. COIL will provide important opportunities for faculty to link their classrooms, courses or course modules with those of faculty collaborators in other countries for content learning and global intercultural learning. And I just have a couple of minutes. I'd like to share a little bit more about our cross-campus collaborations. Sean, next slide, please. Yeah. I would first like to acknowledge that all of the colleges have a global goal in their strategic plans, and this college level commitment continues to be critical to enhancing our global engagement. The colleges are central to our cross-campus collaborations and have contributed to shoring up the infrastructural framework on which URI's global engagement is built. The Global Steering Committee, which has faculty representation from almost every college, remains vibrant and engaged, keeping us on course and in alignment with URI's global strategic goals. It has been a pleasure to chair that committee and to work with them. We also partnered with the College of Arts and Sciences to create a shared education abroad advisor position that provides greater support to the International Engineering Program and the International Studies and Diplomacy programs. This enhances the collaboration between our office and the college, while also leveraging our resources to provide this greater support. A senior staff member from our office collaborates with the Office of the Advancement of Teaching and Learning's Intercultural Learning Collaborative. Again, these are just a couple of strands that we are, weaving global tightly into the DNA, if you will, of URI through cross-campus collaborations. The International Travel Review Committee, ITRC, was launched last year, and their work has been central to preparing us at the campus to have students resume study abroad this fall. Our office, URI Global, was an early adopter of URI's IT and cybersecurity compliance initiative. And working with the Office of the CIO, we participated in cybersecurity training and installed all of the various security software to allow for secure remote work and also to be in compliance with IT cybersecurity. And finally, I'm almost at the end here, towards incorporating JEDI in all aspects of our work. As a full staff, we participated in safe zone training through the Gender and Sexuality Center. In addition, several staff have also completed the Social Justice and Inclusion Micro-Credential. I serve on the Academic Affairs Diversity Task Force and the University Diversity Council. At URI Global, we have also revised position descriptions to be more inclusive to attract talent from minoritized populations and reap the benefits of a more diverse office. The Vice Provost's office was established in Taft Hall to bring greater visibility to URI Global and elevate our presence with visiting delegations. The staff have increased their presence at professional conferences and presented in those venues in person as well as virtual, which puts us at the table for helping to set the agenda, the global agenda in the US as a whole. And I myself have been proud to represent URI when I have been invited to serve on panels and present at meetings and conferences of APLU's Committee on International Initiatives, the Association of International Education Administrators, Forum on Education Abroad. I can go on and on, but I won't. So I will end here. I would like to thank the board for continued support of URI's global engagement, and I would like to thank former Provost Don DeHaze for his unwavering support while he was provost, to interim Provost Laura Beauvais. Thanks for keeping us on track, and to all the faculty, staff, and students and my colleagues whose commitment makes this work possible. And also major kudos to my great team at URI Global. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
I asked Gifty, I call her Gifty.
Yes.
To make her report today because Gifty is leaving us. Yes. She's been here for 3 years, and she's originally from Ghana, and she has decided to go back to Ghana. So she is leaving us in December. I am very sorry to have her resign. She's, as you heard, she's done tremendous work. She is our inaugural Vice Provost of Global, and she's done tremendous work on campus. So I am grateful for all the work that you've done, and I'm sorry to see you leave. And so as an update, I will be replacing, we'll be searching for a new Vice Provost for global initiatives over the next year. Thank you, Gifty.
Thank you, Laura. Everyone has been very, very kind. So thank you all so much. It really has been a privilege. I think I was saying to Lil and others that for those of us who are at this age and who are lucky to have our parents with us, but for me, it's really brought home, especially during the pandemic, my desire to go home. Since she wasn't able to come here as much and I wasn't able to go there. It's time to be a daughter again. So I'm going to be doing that. But thank you, everyone. Like I said, everyone has just been super.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Laura, first, thank you for 3 years of great service, from what I can tell, looking at the data. Can you give us some insight as to when you think study abroad will become, once again, a fairly common experience? And, what data were available prior to the pandemic regarding the participation rates for URI students?
So we sent pre-pandemic, we would have over the course of the year something like 700 or 800 students participating and study abroad. During the pandemic, that number plummeted to pretty much zero after we brought all of our students home who were abroad at that time. But, students it's picking up. Again, students are very interested in going up abroad. We actually had some students, our Chinese flagship students, in China, in Taiwan. Yes, well, we're in China, in Taiwan, earlier this summer, and we currently have, and I do have some numbers here. We currently have about 75 students currently abroad in various programs and in various locations. So of course, 75 compared to almost times 10 of that we had pre-pandemic seems small, but some of this is because as a campus we have to put health and safety at the very top, and so the International Travel Review Committee, working with our health services and others, we realized that we have to have a cautious and staggered approach to returning students there. So I would say within the next 2 years, all things being equal and knock on lots of wood, we will be back to where we were.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Other questions for the Vice Provost before she leaves? Again, thank you very much.
Can I ask
Yeah,
a question
please. Yeah.
since before she leaves? So what was the hardest part of the global initiative that you found on campus in terms of getting students? Is it getting students interested? Is it financial? Is it making contacts on the other partner institutions? Like, what would be one thing or a couple of things just from your experience that we could work on in the future to sort of elevate or increase global participation?
I would say 2 things. The first is that we have to do a better job with reaching students and letting all students know that this is for them also. Going abroad and studying or interning is for them. We usually reduce it to the fact that, oh, well, maybe students are going abroad because they can't afford it. And that is a real thing, but it's not the only reason. there are students out there who just don't think that this is something that they can do, or like I said, it's not for them, and so we need to do a lot better. And I mean, I think that across campus we've been trying to do that. The colleges have been very instrumental in that, but we have a way to go in that regard. I think that since part of the goal of interning and studying abroad is to build global competencies, I have a lot of hope for COIL, for the Collaborative Online International Learning, because as much as, we push this, not all students will be able to go or will want to go abroad. And so COIL allows students to still have the opportunity by working with peers abroad in other institutions on the online environment, which we have come to realize that we are pretty good at. Students can still achieve and can develop that intercultural and the global competencies that they need. And so, yeah, so for me, it's a two-part thing. There's an opportunity, and then of course we need to do a little bit more. Across the initiatives as a whole, I think that we are ramping up. One of the great things that we've been able to do these last 3 years is really sort of focus the amazing work that has been done across campus, globally, and so really begin to, like I said, bring those 1,000 points of light together. And so I think as we do that, and as we build more collaborations with the colleges and shared positions and just other things, we become the one university, and then that way it really is part of the DNA of the institution. So I see tremendous promise for us going forward.
Thank you.
Mark, yeah.
Thanks, Neil. I just wanted to say, Gifty, on behalf, and I'm sure there'll be other occasions, but on behalf of the entire university community, warm thank you and wishing you the very best going home.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, President Parlange. Thank you.
Laura, did you want to continue?
Yes, I'll ask Dr. Ann Vieger now to give us our COVID update.
Down here so that you can hear me. Sean, can you advance, please? That is not the first slide, but I'll go with it. That's okay. Oh, there we go. Oh, you were there just a second. There we go. All right. So our goal here, as Laura mentioned, is to provide you with regular updates about what's happening on campus, any kind of changes that we're making on campus, and then provide you with an update on where we stand with respect to vaccination rates and campus. So that's kind of the structure that we'll use going forward. So since we last met with you, we have both a COVID task force as well as an advisory group to the President's Leadership Council that gets together and works. The campus events policy has been updated to provide clear guidance to everybody surrounding both events that invite people in from the outside as well as events that the university is hosting, such as this, for example, and how to manage those safely. And Sean, you don't need to go to the links on that. That's fine. We can just watch the slide. The university also updated the COVID tracker, and I'll be showing you a couple of screenshots from that as we go along. This is part of an increased effort at transparency that President Parlange asked us to initiate in order to ensure that everybody had access to detailed information about the situation on campus. Oh, the slides disappeared completely. Sean, are you able to get the PowerPoint back?
One quick second. Yes, I will.
Okay. So some other things that have happened since then, I think we mentioned last time that the university had the October 15th deadline for a vaccination requirement. That was for all faculty and for non-classified staff. A much smaller proportion of the employees on campus are part of a classified staff union, and so at the time, they were not required to be vaccinated as part of that initiative, and that largely has to do with the fact that they are employees of the state of Rhode Island and members of different unions that were not part of that negotiation. However, as you may have heard, the federal government passed a requirement that everybody who is receiving federal contract dollars must be vaccinated or have an approved exemption, and in a university setting that receives university contracts and subawards, that pretty much extends to everybody who is employed on our campus. And so rather than try to parse this and decide who may or may not be affected by this, the full campus, and this was just released to the community earlier this week, will have until December 8th to come into compliance. And so that will bring all of our faculty and staff and students into compliance, which I think everybody will feel much more comfortable with as a community in terms of having full vaccination. Next slide, please. And so here's our picture currently. And these numbers do change a bit daily, but they are displayed on the tracker. So anytime you'd like to see how you're doing, you can go up there and they're updated as new information becomes available. But you'll see that overall, at this time, the campus as a whole is over 90% vaccinated. The classified employee group is the one where there was no requirement, but voluntarily over 200 members of that group chose to upload their vaccination status. And so over the next month, we'll see that number change dramatically, and the overall campus will shift to a higher level. Faculty and non-classified staff have over a 93% vaccination rate, as you'll see there. Next slide, please, Sean. The tracker is also sharing information about status of cases and how those cases are distributed amongst the vaccinated population and the unvaccinated population. So this is for the last 7-day period from October 27th to November 7th, and I call your attention to the incidence per 100,000 on the upper left-hand side there. We do have cases amongst our vaccinated population. That's to be expected, as we know, but the incidence rate is much lower for that group than it is for the vaccinated group. And so you'll see it's about 150 per 100,000 in the vaccinated group, close to 600 in the unvaccinated group. So the incidence on a relative population level is much, much higher in the unvaccinated group. Next slide, please, Sean. This shows our trend over the course of the semester, and the light blue line on here, you probably can't read the legend, is the unvaccinated group, and that dotted line across there is an incidence level of 500. The dark blue line is for the vaccinated group, and you'll see, with the exception of a brief period about a week ago, the unvaccinated group was consistently well above the vaccinated group. I'm sure you're also all noticing at the very end of that graph there's a pretty sharp uptick. And that's something that we're monitoring. We have seen an increase in cases just over the last couple of days. So this is current information as of this morning, actually, on the tracker. And we know that with the Halloween holiday, that our students were engaging in a lot of social activities.
It was called the 10 Days of Scream, I think.
And so this was not entirely unanticipated. So our health services group is monitoring this carefully, doing follow-up surveillance testing with various social groups on campus, and we're keeping an eye on this to see if any additional measures are needed. There will be a notice going out to the campus community later today, reaffirming the need to commit to the safety measures that are in place. Also talk about the fact that influenza has been on the rise, and so encouraging people to get vaccinated for flu, reaffirm wearing their masks, and so forth going forward. Sean, next slide, please. And we're always interested in how we're doing relative to the state. The state publishes its data on a weekly basis. So this, the bar graph that's on the left is from the State of Rhode Island Department of Health webpage. And the state had been kind of going in a modest decline over the last couple of months, but that has sort of flattened out, and it appears that the state as a whole might also be starting to increase a bit. We've heard about this trend happening in the northern tier of states. The URI prevalence for that same week, where the state was at 139, URI was at 62. For both vaccinated and unvaccinated, actually very, very low incidence that week. Our current 7-day, just to put this in perspective with that recent bump, we're up to about 185. So we're, knocking on the door of being a bit higher than the state as a whole. We'll keep a close eye on that and see how it goes going forward. But we are trying to encourage people to take the safety measures, but also let folks know that we are monitoring the situation and that should any kind of additional safety measures be necessary, we'll be looking at what those would be appropriate to the situation going forward. And I think that's it, Sean. Was that the last one? So I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Do we have criteria established for when we would allow masks to be removed for teaching in classes? Is that a possibility for the spring semester, do you think?
That would be, do you want to answer?
Yeah, I don't think so at this point, because the new executive order, well, I guess it's not that new, it came out in September. The executive order is asking anyone that is involved in a federal contract or anyone that would be in a building on campus where they would interact with other people, that they would be wearing masks. We thought that we would get to the place where at least the vaccinated people would be able to not wear masks, but it doesn't look like that right now with the executive order in
So there's
place.
not that flexibility,
No, no.
because that obviously, especially if we move the numbers really up high,
Yeah.
It's nice to be back in person, but the masks are still,
They're still necessary.
yeah.
And I think we're seeing a lot of good mask compliance in the classroom. It's outside of the classroom where,
Yeah.
the students are hanging out with each other, having fun and in the dorms and doing their activities where they may not be as careful. But in the classroom, they're being careful.
Mark?
Yeah, I think that's an important point to emphasize that as far as we know, there's been no transmission
Yep.
in the classroom. And
And most of the transmission is off campus. So, there's evidence showing that most of the students who are testing positive are those who live off campus. So we kind of know what's happening. It's getting the students to comply and be safe. We're all tired of wearing masks. I'm tired of wearing masks 8 to 10 hours a day. But we need to continue doing that, particularly with the flu. When we have a flu situation, and that will help with keeping the flu from spreading also.
So with that trend in the last couple of days, and none of us want to think this, but if it were to continue, and you mentioned the consideration of other measures that we would take to protect the campus, what would those be if we're already masking and mandating vaccinations?
Well, that's one of the things that we'd ask for advice from our healthcare professionals on, based on where we stand as a community, what might be an appropriate measure to take. So I wouldn't want to speculate on that at this time, but the President's Advisory Group and the COVID task force would be looking at what might be an appropriate response based on the trends. And it depends on, what are the trends in the state? What are the trends at the university as well? We can't take those in isolation from each other.
Sure. Okay.
We wouldn't necessarily want to pivot to online. We know that our students want to be here in the experience. Plus, if you think about it, it would be almost better for them to continue going to classes rather than living in the dorms and being on campus and doing classes online. They would probably be interacting more with each other. It's hard to, student population is hard to figure out sometimes, what they're up to and what would work with them. We have struggled with masking compliance, and we're constantly messaging around that. But in the classroom, it seems to be working. We can't control as much when they're interacting in their social groups.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have any data in terms of the propensity for hospitalization for those infected? I would imagine it's much less now than it was last year. Do you track hospitalization?
our health services group does track that. I don't have any information on that
Yeah.
to share with you, but they absolutely do track that, whether there's a need for hospitalization.
Okay. Other questions on this particular topic? Okay, Laura, you want to continue?
Sure. Next slide. Just a quick update on JCAP and then kind of things happening in the next several months. JCAP, in fact, I just got a notice that I should be in a JCAP meeting. I thought we had canceled it, but I think we did. JCAP is working on the mission statement. I think this was mentioned in the last meeting. There's a subgroup working on pulling that together for the rest of the campus to look at and evaluate. We are working on our fifth year report. It's called the interim report. It's halfway through our accreditation process. We are working on that, and Dr. Vieger is leading that. She works very hard. She's leading that initiative also for us. And we are engaging in the university-wide planning process with President Parlange. He'll probably talk about a little bit about that tomorrow, how that he plans that process to unfold. But I'm sure JCAT will have a role in that process. Next slide. I just want to talk about a few other campus events. We had a wonderful quantum computing conference, October 18th through 20th. I didn't understand a word of it, but I went to the presentations and went to the meetings. This is a pretty big deal for us. We launched our master's degree in quantum computing and information science, and we had people from IBM, Zapata, another group that I can't recall, another company, come to campus with us, sponsor this to kick off all our activities in this area. And I want to thank the department chair, Len Kahn, and a brand new faculty member in the department for pulling this together. It was quite a good conference, and I think we'll hear good things from this the physics department going forward in this degree. We had our Distinguished Achievement Awards, October 23rd, which was a fun event, recognized lots of good people who do great work in their communities and in their jobs. And it was a nice event. We recognized FM Global, a company that hires a lot of our graduates for their work with us. So that event, and was Lil here. Thank you very much, Lil, for sponsoring that event for us. And then we have our ongoing honors colloquium, Sustaining Our Shores, which this past week was a wonderful experience because part of it was going to Matunic Oyster Bar, and with about 60 people there, all tasting different kinds of seafood, seafood that you don't generally eat. And so it was a focus on how do we use different kinds of seafood and do sustainable fishing practices. And so wonderful events going on in our honors colloquium. Next slide, and I think this is the last one. We are this semester and into the next semester updating our cornerstone values. Our cornerstone values are guiding values for campus. They've been in place since early 1990s. I think it was 1994 or 96. We are updating those. So I have a task force that's of people from across all the units on campus working on that. We are going to be meeting next week for our honorary degree nominations for May of 2022. So you will be hearing more about that in January. And one last thing that we are doing in our department chairs forum, which we hold a chairs forum once a semester. In December, we will be looking at the climate survey findings that you are going to hear about tomorrow, but we'll be looking at specifically in how we would implement some changes in academic affairs. And I think, is that the last slides? Thank you. Oh, and I do want to remind everybody, this is Native American Heritage Month in November, and there will be a number of activities going on campus to honor our Native American cultural heritage.
I think, Karina, do you have a question?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to comment on the quantum symposium that, I've been following quantum for some time and you guys had amazing speakers. I was super impressed, some former colleagues from Google. And that I just wanted to point out that quantum is like one of the areas that's least diverse. So as you work to build that group, you might want to, you'll have to give that some thought. But
Yeah.
just want to say thank you. It was looked like a great
Thank you,
meeting.
Karina. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. And the chair of the department is on board with us.
Yeah,
So thank
very
you.
few women and people of color and things.
I've got a question unrelated to anything you've covered so far, Laura. You probably have a pretty good idea right now where we are with enrollment for fall.
Yeah.
Could you give us just an overview?
Well, Dean's going to do that tomorrow. Yes, our enrollment is up this year. We have, if I can remember the numbers, we have 17,600 or so students right now on campus. Yeah. So we did bring in a nice class. I don't want to steal Dean's show and give all the details, but our enrollment came in strong this year.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, great. Other questions for Laura? So the secretary will have to tell me whether, since we don't have a quorum, do I need a motion to adjourn? All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
A
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed?